Hi everyone, this is Demal Gonzalez of Heartwood Financial Services. Hey, today we're going to talk about one of the biggest challenges that comes up when we're talking about families transferring their wealth to the next generation. So let's get right into it. Okay, so here it is. Did you know that 70% of wealthy families will lose their wealth by the second generation? And if you thought that was bad, 90% will lose it by the third generation. So let's talk about why this happens, and I'm going to give you 4 key tips to help you combat this horrible statistic. All right, so first, let's ask why. Why is this happening? What is the underlying issue? Well, first of all, generations are taught not to talk about money. That's probably one of the biggest ones. Just that uncomfortable, conversation that people avoid. And unfortunately, that can create problems. And then the next one is prior generations worry that the next generation will become lazy and entitled. We always tend to think that about the next generation. I think that's human nature, but it may not necessarily always be true. And many have no clue about the value of money or how to handle it because we haven't really taken advantage of those teachable moments as much as maybe we could have. So those are the big whys. Now let's talk a little bit more about what we can do about this. So before we get into the ideas, I first want to address the question of should we even leave an inheritance to our children? And it's a valid question because sometimes we see that inheritances don't really work out very well. Sometimes they spoil the kids or it leads them down a bad path. But I would argue that here in Proverbs 13:22, we read that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. And so it seems like it's something that the Bible is encouraging, and not just to your children, but to last several generations. And so that's what we really hope to be able to do, to make it an enduring inheritance. And I would argue that it's not just an inheritance of money, but also an inheritance of values. And so let's get more into that. All right, so here are the 4 tips that can help you from becoming a statistic when it comes to transferring your wealth. So number 1, having lines of communication. That is going to help in building trust. Sometimes even getting a third party involved to help in the communication process, like a wealth advisor. This could be a helpful thing. And also hoping, and looking for ways to share your values and passions with each other. And that might lend to some great conversations and learning opportunities for both parties, right? Number 2, share the decision making. Oftentimes what happens, the beneficiaries are not able to properly manage inheritance because they just never were involved and got any experience with it. And keeping the next generation out of the decision-making process can also lead to dysfunction. I would encourage you to even give some gifts while you're around so that you can kind of mentor your children and that process, and you can have a lot of teachable moments that way too. All right, so tip number 3 is consider an impartial trustee. Now, this is a person that could actually be helpful in actually distributing the assets down the road as you pass away. It could also be really good to have this trustee as a neutral party that could not be part of the family infighting. That could be very helpful. Somebody that can mediate between emotional topics that can come up. And number 4 is to make a plan. This is where you talk to usually a financial advisor to draw out a roadmap of how you want the funds to be distributed and how to do that in the most tax efficient way possible. So of course, getting a financial planner involved here would be very helpful. And the last thing I would say is make sure you take the opportunity to educate the younger generation about the things that you want to accomplish with that wealth transfer and maybe some of the mistakes that you've made along the way that you want to help them avoid making. All right. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope this was helpful. At the end of the day, we want to obviously enjoy our money that we've worked very hard for, but we also want to transfer as much of it as possible to our kids and make it enduring so it actually lasts to our kids' kids. And basically the best way I think to do that is to not just transfer the money, but also transfer the knowledge and the values. And I know that's very challenging, but with some help, especially of a third party, somebody like a financial planner, I think you can definitely do that with God's help. All right. God bless you. Bye-bye.